It's Tam, and today we're gonna look at a kind of hybrid monster creature I made. So I've been working on doing beetles, and I've drawn turtles in the past, and I figured why not just combine them and try and make some kind of freak monster and see what we get. And this is what I came up with. I'm gonna call it a birdle. It's kind of like a beetle turtle, and I think it turned out pretty cute. But let's see how I made it. So I'm going to play this. This is the Procreate. I made this in Procreate, and this is their exported version of it, so it doesn't show the true time it took. It's just going to show you all the strokes I did all mashed together. So I'm going to start it right now. So here I'm just warming up a bit. I try to do this when I first start drawing. I'll draw ellipses and boxes and lines and ellipses inside the boxes, and that's just to kind of warm up my hand, but also get me in the zone of drawing in perspective. And as you can see, I very quickly throw in just the kind of basic shapes I'm thinking of for this turtle. I want to do one slightly from above, slightly to the side, give a cool little pose to him. And honestly, if I just pause it right here, we're pretty much there already. And I think that's something that I've learned from doing these videos, is that very early on in the process, we put the framework for the entire thing, for the entire form. And so that's why I want you to really focus on when you're working on your own, is to really focus very hard on the first beginning stages of the drawing, because that's what's going to set up all the rest of the drawing. If you're wrong here and you put a bunch of fun details on top, you're still wrong. Whereas if you get this right and you mess up with the details, well, you can still redo the details pretty quickly because everything's in the right place already. You don't have to change any of the framework, so there's no big changes you're doing later on. So really focus on the beginning parts. Now there's some parts here that are not quite right, like the shell on the left isn't quite right. There's parts of the neck that I didn't like. There's parts of the legs that I kind of shift. And the feet, especially the one in the front, I kind of redo a little bit as well. And I add some elements at the end, like I add a tail and all these things. I fix the horns a little bit, but those are all minor details compared to like the main shell, the pose, the perspective. All of that is set. And so I'm going to start playing it again now. And you can see I'm just putting in more details. Really, so the first part is I was planning on only doing a line drawing, and I decided, why not just try color to get myself out of my comfort zone, right? I've never colored underline before. I usually paint on the page. I don't really do a line drawing and then color underneath it. So I figured I'd try something new and see how it felt. It felt fine. I think I do prefer painting over the lines ultimately, but this is a great challenge and a great way to kind of get more comfortable with color if you're not, because you have something familiar to rely on, which is the line drawing, and then you can kind of learn how the color works underneath it, but at least you still have your base set. So right here I'm adding details. It's all going over top of the form. Once I'm kind of satisfied with most of it, I started putting in some heavier line to denote the shadows and put some weight on the form, usually towards the bottom or where things intersect. It kind of makes it clearer. Put in, some of the last details, some little kind of hard scale parts, and work up the shell a bit as well. Here I redo that foot that I was talking about, and I feel like once I start doing the color, I really nail the legs, especially around the knee portions of the legs. And you'll see that once I start putting the color in. I feel like I understood the form of them and how the light hit them really well, so that's something to look out for. And also when you're doing yours, if you do something well, even if it's a small part, you should feel good about it. And I think that's important because it's all about building your own confidence, right? So here I put in the first color lay-in. I just put in the local color flat, and then I usually start with the shadows because it's something that I find it really defines the form more than the light, in my opinion. And it also is something I'm more familiar with putting in for color-wise, is the shadows, because they all kind of tread towards a certain shade, so it's easier to really understand, because the light can change with the light source, how far away it is, what color is it, but the shadows are always in similar areas most of the time. So I do put in a light bit of the background just to kind of place it. I don't really try very hard to do any of the grass or anything like that. I just kind of want to say, oh, he's on some kind of marshy, beachy area. We're getting towards the end here, and I would have to say for this one, the big thing I learned is how to put color underneath the line, and also just forcing myself out of my comfort zone, doing something that doesn't exist in real life, but using reference from things that do, and relying on my knowledge of the form in order to really make something look cool and look kind of like it could exist in real life. And that's the whole point of concept art, in my opinion. Also for illustration, I like creating things that aren't real, even if they have real real objects, real elements in them. It doesn't actually exist. And I think that's one of the really fun things about art, is you can show things that are from your mind, from your imagination, and show someone what you think it would be. And I think there's some really wonderful connection in terms of the communication between that most people can't do. Most people can't do this. So if you're learning how to do this, this is a wonderful skill and something that really sets you apart from other people, and you can communicate visually in a way most other people can't. I think that's something that you should be proud of yourself for. And when I do these, I try to build on my own confidence. I have to say I'm proud that I was able to create this creature, which I've had people say, oh, that looks cute. I'm like, okay, well, that's an emotion too that you're getting from something I made. That's kind of awesome. So hopefully that kind of walked through and what I was thinking and how I started it, trying to lay in the form and perspective and focusing on that. And then from then on out, it's just detail work, which you just put on top of the form. I mean, it's a walk in the park. You could have something, you could be watching something in a different, window on your computer or on the TV or something while you're putting in these details, because you've already basically said where they sit. So from then on out, it's just kind of what you feel like doing. So I put some scales, I put some texture on the shell. I defined some of the forms in the face. I put some little ridges in the neck to kind of make it kind of look like he's got a little bit of the hard, scaly, armory bits and the bony structure, which kind of harkened back more towards what a beetle would kind of have, more of those hard bits and hard lines. And then I took some reference from the turtles, especially tortoises, and how they kind of have this leathery skin that kind of bunches up on itself because it doesn't really stretch very much, so they just have excess, so that when they move it doesn't actually get too taut on them. So that's how I used references from real life things to kind of show myself this design. It looks kind of prehistoric. I think it looks kind of cool. I hope it was helpful for you, for how you think about your art. Please let me know if this helped you, and I hope to see you again. Bye-bye.